Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Melanie Drake and I am the Global Training and Resources Manager at Pearson for the English Assessment Team, and I'm really happy to be here today. Okay, so hopefully you're all seeing the screen okay there. I'm going to be taking you through a session which is preparing for success in your English language tests. So whether you've perhaps already booked a test and you're in the last few days of preparation, or maybe it's something you're just thinking about. In today's brief session, I've got some pointers for you and some additional tips for helping you prepare in a more focused manner, which will hopefully save you a lot of time. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, first of all, one of the most important things is figuring out how you can get the score that you need. So here's a few basic steps from me. As I said, whether you're at the beginning of this journey or more sort of coming to the end, it's not too late. Make sure that you factored in these areas. It's never too late to do a bit of extra prep. So first of all, as I mentioned, find out the score that you need to achieve. This is really going to set the scene for how long your study journey is, what it's going to look like, and how that's going to build into your life at the moment. So go onto the website of the institution you're applying to and find out what the score is. Perhaps they need one overall score, or maybe they need separate scores across different skills. So bear that in mind too. At which point, once you've understood the score, then you want to find out about the test basics of the test that you have decided to take. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean intricacies around the format and what you can expect of the actual assessment itself. It can be also more basic, like, are you going to be going to a test centre, or are you doing this at home? If so, how far away is this test centre? What do you need to bring? Do you need to bring your passport with you? Is there going to be a break during it? What sort of security measures are in store for you? The more that you can understand about what you're going to experience on test day, the better prepared you're going to feel, and of course, the more confident. And then once you've looked at the practicalities, this is when you can look at the test format and the scoring. So make sure you understand how this section is divided up. Is this going to be integrated scoring, or are you tested on listening and speaking, for example, in isolation? Is it a 2-hour test? Is it a 3-hour test? Make sure that you understand what you're up against before you start the preparation. And then, of course, determine how close you believe you are to achieving your desired score. So, for example, if you understand at the moment that you have a low level of English, and in the institution you're going to wants you to be somewhere up in an upper intermediate, you know that this isn't going to happen overnight. So just bear in mind of where you are now, where you need to get to, and how long realistically that might take you. Do you need to take on some additional classes, for example? And then, of course, you start the preparation, which we'll speak about in a minute. Once you've been through a reasonable amount of preparation and you feel quite confident, you can go ahead and book your test. So some points to consider. The score that you need to achieve. So, for example, PTE Academic, we work on the global scale of English, and we're also linked up to the CFR as well. So again, you consider, do you need a score of, I don't know, could it be around 40 or 50 or 60 or somewhere higher? Make sure you've gone onto the website and understood the score you need to achieve and where that lands with your current level of English, as we mentioned here. You can go onto English Marketplace if you like. We have free diagnostic tests there and a few useful English lesson plans as well on english.com. So if you're not really sure what your English level is currently, go ahead and take an online diagnostic test. It will really help. And then finally, give yourself adequate time to prepare. What this preparation will look like, we'll speak about in a moment, but I can't stress enough, give yourself enough time. If it's rushed, even a learner with the most proficient English may well still struggle. So let's look at preparation for the test. As I mentioned, make sure you know what to expect on test day. I'm not going to play this video now, but it's an example on the Pearson PTE website. It really lets learners understand on a practical level what they're up against. So it will give you a video of the test center. You'll get to see what it looks like. It will take you through those first moments when you come in and sign in, where you put your digital signature, the fact that you're there 30 minutes early. And then it will move into the different stages of the test, how long each section takes, and the type of questions that you expect to be asked. As well as how you receive your score and your certificate at the end and how all of this works. So make sure, as I said, that you know what to expect on test day, and all of this information will be available on the website of your chosen test. So some of you might be thinking that you're completely new to the test you've chosen, and where should you start? This is a really, really common question. So my advice would be to simply start very basic. Head to the website of your chosen English test and have a look at what free introductory resources are available. Of course, there are additional things that you can pay for example, a proper course book, but there is always going to be some free material that you can look at just to get started. So do make use of that. To give you some examples for PTE Academic, on our website, we have a free resources how to prepare page. So this is various walkthrough videos of the item types that we have, and you can also go through a sequence of the test format and look at some examples of the different questions. So that way you get a real feel for the assessment. And consider getting some free advice as well. Most assessments will have some form of free online course or tuition. For example, our one is called the Introduction to PTE Academic, and it's led by Jay from E2 Language, who is one of our preparation partners. And what this does is take you through every single question type and gives you lots of tips for how to respond. And as I mentioned as well, there's always going to be some degree of free resources available as well, regardless of the test you're taking. So make sure that you check those out and make use of them. One example of this is our downloadable official app. So a lot of us these days quite like to do a bit of study on the go. We normally have our phones with us anyway. So this is one key practice item that we have. That also has a study planner, which will really help you get organized, and you can even sort of see how you're doing against other users. I'd also recommend, again, not just for PTE Academic, for any test, make sure that you're familiar with the scoring. Access the score guides on the website. It's always free, and it will take you through every item type and help you to understand the traits that you're actually assessed on. And as well as this, we have a test takers tips guide. So it goes through every item types and gives you lots of tips for how to respond, as well as a couple of free online courses as well, which I'll speak about a little bit more in a minute. But again, these are just examples of things that are absolutely free. So you may want to access this before you go into further study, like a class, for example. Something that I recommend to all test takers is to take a scored practice test, so a mock test. This is really putting you in the driving seat and giving you an idea of how far away you are from getting your desired score, or how ready you are to go ahead and book your test. So this particular mock test with PTE Academic can be taken at home, or it can be taken in your classroom. It's up to you. This will give you the real test day experience, because you'll be timed for the exact same duration as you'll have on the real test. And you'll also receive a mock score report, but again, which will look and feel exactly the same way as the score report you'll receive on test day. So whether you want to do this at the beginning of your prep journey, perhaps halfway through, or maybe right at the very end, or even all of these, is up to you. But a scored practice test is one of the most useful things that you can do in your preparation. A lot of times I hear students saying that they find it difficult to study on a computer. And I have to say that I completely relate to this as well. While we all are quite used to nowadays using a computer in our daily lives for various forms of study or work, or perhaps some kind of, engagement, speaking socially, I actually still prefer to study with physical paper. I always have, and I'm not sure that's ever going to change. So I would recommend in this case, if you're like me, look for a textbook resource. equivalent to the test that you want to study for. So one example that we have for PTE Academic is the official guide to PTE. What's good about this is that it has that physical textbook format, where you can, look through the pages and you can do the activities, you can take down the notes and, make notes on the study skills. But if you want to have a bit more of a blended approach and still want to keep that link with digital there, we have a question bank that you can access, which is online, connected to the course book. And we have various activities and videos with common learner mistakes as well. So perhaps a blended approach would work best. Something else I hear really often is learners say, I'm really strong in all areas except speaking. This is very common because simply if we're not living in an English speaking country, we don't have enough time to really develop this skill. So a few things to mention here. First of all, do make sure that you're seeking out as many opportunities as possible to speak English. And this may well be online if you're not in a physical location where you can do this. Try and make access, if you're able to, from online tutors, some form of language exchange or conversation clubs. And of course, as we mentioned in previous sessions, you can have a go at recording your own voice as well. You may even just want to, read aloud some script, something that you've seen in a course book or a magazine, and listen back, really start to understand how clear you are, what's your pronunciation like, what's your pitch and your speed and your tone like. And on top of that, use test-specific products. So one example, again, this is free for PTE Academic. We have a free speaking course, which is created by Macquarie University. It's on Future Learn. Anybody can access it. And what it will do is help you develop those underlying skills, which are tested upon in our speaking section of the test. And get some real practice with a question bank. So I think I already mentioned this, but these are real questions that appear in the test across all the 4 skills. And you can just go ahead online and have a go at practicing these as well. Again, it's all just great practice, which is really putting you in the driver's seat and getting you as prepared as possible to take the test. What about this one? Maybe you feel that hopefully, if you're in a really lucky position, you might feel your level of English is already at a pretty high level. So in that case, should you still prep? Absolutely. I have come across many learners in the past who actually have a very high level of English. Let me tell you, even as a native speaker, if I didn't do any preparation for an English language test, I couldn't expect to do really well. Because it still comes down to familiarity with the item types, from practicing being able to respond, against a timer, from practicing to be able to continue for 2 hours and keep my focus fully up. You must prepare. So again, if you are very confident, if you do nothing else, absolutely take a scored practice test, because this is the best indicator of how ready you are. And of course, the idea is that we will only take this test once. So if you have tested a few times and you still can't get the score you need, what can you do here in this situation? A couple of things. The first thing I would suggest, particularly if you have been doing more sort of self-study, is there a class that you can access, some extra feedback from a teacher, or also maybe just getting a bit of support from your peers can really help, because there may be some sort of underlying difficulties or some of the tasks that you're not approaching in the right way. So get some support from others. And again, time is a huge factor. Don't underestimate. You may well need a little bit more time than you originally thought. This is okay. Just factor this in if you're able to, if your timelines allow it. If anything, I would say don't rush. If you're in a position that you give yourself extra time to prepare, do so. And again, product specific forms of revision are normally most helpful. So you can also go back to basics. Again, if this is talking about PTE Academic and you haven't got the score you need, PTE Academic English Booster really goes through the sort of underlying skills, grammar, vocabulary, and strategies that you can use for every single item type, and really just takes it back to the beginning and sort of builds you up. So this is something else that you might want to consider if you have taken the test a couple of times and haven't got the score you need. And again, for other tests, similar products will be available. So how can you prepare then? So consider how long that you've got. If you have a very small window, or hopefully that you'll have, depending on your level of English, several months, so that you don't have to rush it and you can have a little bit of a regular study schedule. Do be aware, do you think that self-study is enough? Is this something that you could do on your own, or do you need the support of a teacher and others in a classroom? And think about your preferences as well. Do you prefer study using online materials? Are you so familiar now with just using your phone and using your computer for your studies that this is where you're most comfortable? Or do you actually quite like to have a physical resource, like, for example, the course book I mentioned earlier? And you might have one skill to improve, maybe speaking is weak for you, or just writing, or perhaps you need to do a little bit of work overall. Bear this in mind, because this is going to factor how long you need in order to prepare. And to remind you all again that we all have a very unique learning journey. There's nothing wrong with this. We want to be proud of this, and don't feel that you need to copy the same study plan that your friends are doing, because they're going to be in a different situation. They also have a unique learning journey. So make sure that you're asking yourselves these questions and that you're preparing in response to those. And then lastly, make sure you understand how your test is scored. So how is your test scored? Go onto the website, look at a practice test and understand. So are you taking a paper-based test? Are you taking a computer-based test like PTE Academic, which is scored by artificial intelligence and automated scoring? So basically a computer marks the test, not a physical examiner. What skills are involved? Is this the 4 communicative skills like ours? We have 20 different question types, and we don't score them as single isolated skills. You are marked upon your ability to integrate your skills. So for example, how you can read and write at the same time, your ability to listen and then speak exactly the same way that we speak in the real world. And so again, just to remind you that when you're looking at scoring, this is completely free. The score guide is available on our website. And again, for other tests, similar information will be available. But what this will do for each of the 20 item types, it allows you to look at the individual traits that you're scored upon. And as a result, the different skills that you need to be working on. So as a final reminder, don't forget that when you're preparing for your English language test, the first things you want to do is make sure that you understand the format of your test and of course how it is scored. Have a look at what resources are there to support you. These often come in various different bundles depending on the time that you have and the level of support you require. Is this something that you just want to access some free resources, or do you need something a little bit more robust and you want to access a course book as well, or perhaps a class with a teacher? Take the proper amount of time to prepare. We've seen so many learners in the past fall short because they haven't given themselves time. So don't rush it, and make sure that you're focused and that you have a proper plan day to day. And then finally, if you want any extra information about the PTE Academic test, you can head to our website, pearsonpte.com, or of course, follow us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that this was useful, and I wish you luck in your future English language